So there's a formula to it, and there's a certain number of factors that have to, because a lot of people have ideas, but not everyone's equipped to actually execute on those and make them success.
That's right. And sometimes just because you have an idea doesn't mean it'll make it through the steps of the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need to go do some of that market research, and come back and really know. We've worked with people where, as we were doing some of that early market research, we found 2 or 3 people that already did the same thing.
Mm.
And as an entrepreneur, they're like, awesome, that's what I needed. And really what I wanted to do was this other thing. So since that exists, now I'll move on and figure out how to best serve a market segment. Because generally the entrepreneur is attached to an industry or market segment that they really feel strongly about. And if they don't know that there's that need is there, they'll get attached to that. A good entrepreneur will get attached to that missing piece. And then if you fill that in, then they'll just come back a few months later and go, okay, I found the next missing piece in the chain, and we'll explore that one.
Yeah. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Ben Johnson. Ben, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
So Ben is the CEO and founder of Particle 41. Particle 41 is a development firm that assists companies in accelerating their business initiatives through application development, data science, and DevOps projects. Exciting stuff. So,
right.
So I think he's a pretty smart guy. I think it's going to be really interesting to hear his story and learn from him today. We're going to talk about probably tech, probably teams and rapid growth and scaling, that type of stuff. I'm super excited to get that going. But before we dive into the technical stuff and teams and business and all that, what we like to do here on The Builders is first time being on the show, we like to dig into your story a little bit, Ben, and your origin story, what created you, and had you land where you are today, doing the amazing things you're doing in the world, helping people. So if you want, I'll give it to you to tell us that story and give us a little background.
Sure. I won't go too far back because that's probably not. But I was definitely a military brat. Was born in Spain, not in the U.S., but just because my dad was in the Navy. But
oh wow!
Right out of school, I started an online travel agency, and this was back in 2000 timeframe. So the fun story about that is we built a data center in downtown Odessa, Texas, like small town USA, and built a 250 computer server farm in a storefront building in downtown Odessa, Texas.
Wow.
Back in 2000. And oddly, we had a diesel generator outside and all of that. So we really kind of figured out how to build the internet before there were things like cloud and all that. So it was an extremely fun time. A lot of internet software was extremely experimental, and we were in the middle of that, but delivering a highly available online travel agency that we grew to 70 million from that location and eventually moved to a proper data center in Dallas. But the early days of that were where I kind of cut my teeth. And one of the mentors there was a MIT Harvard guy, and he tore me apart and put me back together again.
Is that right?
But from there, I was able to build a travel marketing firm, a finance marketing firm, and then most recently, I built a legal services company and sold it to LegalZoom in 3 years.
Wow, that is quite a track record. It reminds me, for some reason, I'm like thinking of like Musk. I was doing PayPal back then in those days, and all the amazing, it must have been an amazing time to be building stuff. How did you, so you said How did you meet this group of people doing this crazy stuff?
Sure. Yeah, we were all at the I actually I moved from Atlanta, where I lived at the time, for a different job I had taken. Actually, I was still in college in Denver. Sorry if I get my timeline straight. And I moved to Odessa. The partners there recruited me. But when I say we, I think about two people that I currently work with. So my senior DevOps leader, Chris Fromm, he was with me on a travel company. And then I met an Indian national named Sukhdev Gidwani, and I met him working on the automated ticketing system for that travel company. So I am very much still with some of those folks. And
That is
so
cool.
when I tell my story, it's hard to extract those folks. I mean, we just found each other through kind of random events, but we are still going strong today, solving similar problems, just in a more internet ready world.
Yeah. Wow, that's the luck of the draw right there. Finding some people that you can connect with. You're on the same page. You have the same kind of vision, and to be with somebody like that. I've seen those stories. I know people that have those stories where they've had partners for years and years and years, and they've had their ups and downs together, but somehow you manage to stick with it together, which is amazing. Then how do you each complement each other, out of curiosity? Like, who are you in the group compared to them?
Yeah. I'm the front man. I like to talk strategy, and I've been really at the epicenter of the business building. So seeing all the dimensions of the business, sales, marketing, finance, just where we're moving productly, kind of the big picture generalist. And then my India business partner, he's master of disaster when it comes to software and software architecture.
Yeah.
And then Chris is all about hardware, infrastructure, system, and scaling. And then we've partnered with a few other similar people who have been CTOs in their own right. One of our CTO advisors is all about operations. He can, take your Jira and rip it apart and put it back together again and tell you, how often your developers are using the restroom every day. I mean, he really knows the operational side of things. And then I have another partner who's just master of strategy. I mean, he can take the most impossible situations and carve a path through. So we've really amassed this kind of group of really CTO level folks that have varying backgrounds, and that's how we build teams.
I mean, big things together. So what attracted you to tech? I mean, is that something that's also been in your blood? Entrepreneurship's been in your blood since you can remember.
Yeah, for sure. I had a Commodore 64 when I was a teenager, and we would the Tandy store was right next to the grocery store. I would go with my mom just so that I could go scrape through the floppy disk archives at that Tandy store to see what I could get that Commodore 64 to do.
Nice.
And then I had a neighborhood buddy that had the same thing. And if my parents could ever make a call, they would have been happy, because we had those modems locked up the entire time. So I'm really dating myself right now. There's not too many people who, we're starting to get thin, the number of people who have put hands on a Commodore 64. So
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that was back in the 80s, right?
yes.
Yeah. Back then, my dad got Apples. He was an Apple guy, so I had Apple II, Apple IIGS, Apple IIe, I think, was in there. I kept upgrading over the years, and I was doing basic programming when I was a kid, a teenager. I was that nerd in the basement.
Yeah, we had access to those at school. We had access to the Apples at school. And even in elementary school, my favorite thing was, and most people don't know about this, like Logo, or Logos, however you want to pronounce it. But it was a turtle, a little triangular turtle that was on the screen. And then you would say like forward 10, and it would move 10 pixels up. And then you could rotate it. So you were basically writing a program to instruct this triangle how to draw.
That sounds really
and then
familiar.
it even had like, I've shown this to my kids and they absolutely don't get it. But you could even do repeats, and you could alter the program, as it would repeat, and do gyroscopic diagrams and all kinds of fun stuff. You could change the color of the line. But I remember just loving that part of, just loving being in front of a computer and seeing what I could make it do.
People today, especially younger people today, would not understand the excitement of something. So, like, even if you're doing,
drawing pixel lines on the screen, and seeing if you can get it to make a flower.
It's like, wow, this is amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, that's something that had impression you as a kid, and that obviously carried over. And then, what did you take in college? Did you take tech or any?
Yeah, computer science.
Computer science?
I originally started out as a mechanical engineer, but physics 3, some of the advanced things, organic chemistry, no thank you. So I kind of downgraded to computer science from my mechanical engineering group.
Nice. So that takes you to, so when did you start the I don't even know how many businesses have you had? I mean, you had the business in Texas you moved that somewhere, and kind of what was that trajectory? Where did you hop to get to where you are today?
We got purchased. So from that travel company, we purchased we got purchased by a company out of Atlanta that ran us into the ground in 18 months. And it was really sad. They had no cash controls. They ended up having a Las Vegas call center, an Atlanta call center, and wanted to get rid of the Odessa call center that we had built. But it was affordable, and most of the people were bilingual that ran it. So it was just that the executives that we sold into or merged with, they just didn't want to be in West Texas. So I got this interesting dose of how people run businesses, sometimes not for the best interest of the business, but for the best interest of themselves, which in my young years was kind of I was naive and just like, how can this happen? But I was able to take some of the relationships I built in that business and join a good friend of mine on Travel Ad Network, which was a travel marketing company. And they were doing things on the internet, online advertising. And what that exposed me to, and I took some of those same people with me, Chris and SD, we went there, and we were putting ad tags and tracking code on a whole bunch of web pages. We had 30 publishers that were creating destination guide content, and we needed to consolidate that web traffic into something that our CEO called destination marketing. So you have people, so if you're Virgin Atlantic and you know that your best fares, or what you want to sell is people going from New York to London or domestic to abroad, then we could target those specific kind of people. If you want to target people going to Las Vegas, we could target people going to Las Vegas. So we were able in that time to target travel intent. And that was very, very successful. That business went through 2 rounds of about 15 million per round, an A round and a B round. And then I left that to start a similar type of business called a vertical ad network in finance. And I joined some guys that already had a head start. And that's called Investing Channel. That's a great brand if you're looking for the stock tips and financial content. They aggregate some really cool guys, just some really cool groups of publishers that write a lot of, I think they even have kind of kind of an adult channel where it's all the guys that have no filter on their language,
Nice.
but we'll talk about all these different corporate trading opportunities and which companies are screwed up and which ones are going to go for broke. And
you're part of that
I
channel.
know they enjoyed the
the uncensored channel.
I know they. Yeah, exactly. And so we had a lot of fun building that. That was kind of the idea of like, what could you do if you knew what stock tickers people were reading about? what could you know about folks from the stock tickers that they're interested in, and that was great. But took a break from that. Took a break from going back and forth to New York, which I did for both of those businesses, and started Particle 41. But actually joined with my buddy to do this legal tech company on a bet. He bet me that my LLC was not in good standing with the Secretary of State, and sure enough, sorry, you need to go out, go get Tyler to do that.
Did we have
and he was right. It wasn't in good standing with the Secretary of State, so I was able to. So I thought he might have something, and we built a business that positioned ourselves between LegalZoom and some of the large players on the corporate space, and we kind of threaded the needle. Got a bunch of law firms to adopt our tech, and we built one of the only LLC formation APIs. Now that is not sexy. But imagine all these different brands that are trying to form LLCs on behalf of their customers. We created an API for that. So rather than having to know, how do I form an LLC in one state versus another state versus another state, we had a simple API with standardized information. You just give it to us and we'll get the LLC filed. And that API was really helpful for a lot of brands. So we did integration with Stripe, Yahoo Small Business, just a long number of brands that we were able to serve to help with the LLC formation and business compliance, and we sold it to LegalZoom.
That is amazing. Okay, I have so many things. First of all, tell me the process of coming up with these ideas. Like you obviously you have brainstorming sessions, somebody has an idea, or you're like, because that to me, it's, a lot of us build businesses but not, businesses that end up getting bought by a large corporation or anything like that. But all your ideas seem like they're so innovative, and especially on the tech side, you have things that aren't being done, but like you said, at the same time, it's filling a need that was there in the marketplace. That's, how do you get there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'm normally a co-founder, and I sit in that technical co-founding seat. And so there are a couple of things that I look for. So one, I look for the drive of the idea holder, the CEO, that other founder that we're going to attach ourselves to. And at Particle, we actually have a venture studio kind of area that we do some work around this, where now I'm kind of productizing this idea of, okay, you're a business that has an idea, and we evaluate the founder, and we really, there's kind of two things. One, is the idea something that is unique in the market? Are you doing the product research around that? We're the running back that's going to go charge ahead. So we want to make sure that a good play is going to be called, right? We're not going to be the quarterback. We're not going to own the idea. That's yours to own. And I think I've been pretty consistent with this, where if I see that the entrepreneur is has a good idea, they know the space, they're willing to go raise money at the right time, they're willing to follow a process, we then kind of trust our process that we've repeated over and over now. And so we probably have a good handful of clients that we've put through our venture studio, at least 5, where they've said, hey, I have this idea, or I have this greenfield small project that we need. We can generally get a prototype out in 90 days. You can then put it in front of some users, get their feedback. And so that product development process is just something we've perfected over time, to let the idea stand on its own. And then if the idea needs to be pivoted or what have you, but it really comes down to like, the businesses that I've been a part of that have been a success, I really can't take credit for the idea or even the success in the market. What I did is I accelerated that idea. I allowed that idea to grow quickly before either a competitor figured out that thing was also missing, or the market shifted in a way where the idea would no longer be solvent.
Yeah. So there's a formula to it, and there's a certain number of factors that have to, because a lot of people have ideas, but not everyone's equipped to actually execute on those and make them success.
That's right. And sometimes just because you have an idea doesn't mean it'll make it through the steps of the process.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go do some of that market research, and come back and really know. We've worked with people where, as we were doing some of that early market research, we found 2 or 3 people that already did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as an entrepreneur, they're like, awesome, that's what I needed. And really what I wanted to do was this other thing. So since that exists, now I'll move on and figure out how to best serve a market segment. Because generally the entrepreneur is attached to an industry or a market segment that they really feel strongly about. And if they don't know that there's that need is there, they'll get attached. A good entrepreneur will get attached to that missing piece. And then if you fill that in, then they'll just come back a few months later and go, okay, I found the next missing piece in the chain, and we'll explore that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're exploring, you have to test these ideas as well. You don't, because you form an idea, just like I did with my agency 5 years ago, over 5 years ago. I had an idea what I was going to do, but 5 years later, it's quite a bit different from what I set out to do, because I put it out there and I kind of went with the flow and landed, and certain things worked, certain things didn't, certain things happened that I didn't ever anticipate. But the same with software, same with anything, apps, and you just put it out there and something minimal viable or whatever, and that's awesome. So basically, speaking of tech, so you're in the tech space. You're helping. What are you doing for people? Out of curiosity here.
So
how are you helping?
So what we say is that our service covers from the boardroom to the code review. And so we do CTO advisory because we'd love to help you with the optics of your project. We just helped one of our clients get a round of funding from their investors. Right, we set up decks and help them get that next round of funding so that they can go accomplish their not only their product development goals but their marketing goals and move the business to the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
So we do CTO advisory. And then we also do software development, and that's come in 2 flavors. So software development for startups is a little bit different. That's where our venture studio kicks in. But a significant amount of our growth has been in the application modernization space, where we take the legacy systems, we set up a software factory, and we attack that with a process. And we get into wonderfully fun things like turning monolithic applications that were built back in the early 2000s into elegant microservice architecture. But we also get into replacing mainframe systems, COBOL written systems, and turning those into native cloud things. And that's really where a lot of fun tech is occurring, because we're able to leverage the latest in cloud technology to do some of these things, and we get really awesome results, where folks are just it takes the process to bring it all together, but folks are generally very impressed with how when they turn it into scalable software in the cloud, it's just so much more manageable, and they can do so much more than they were able to do with those legacy mainframes.
I mean, is that an easy sell? I mean, basically, there's probably a ton of businesses out there that are on legacy software and tech and everything. Maybe are they actively seeking, or is an easy sell to to explain the benefits of moving to cloud and creating these microservices or whatever you're doing?
Yeah, it is, just because the cloud providers are doing that sell for us. What is often difficult is that does come at an expense. That expense is usually not directly tied to revenue. And so it's really the capital investment of kind of undo, like, you're really going to have to invest into the next degree of software expertise, and get into the cloud. So I think the cloud providers are also doing a great job in trying to help fund some of those projects. AWS has a MAP program, and so the cloud providers are also trying to help. But a business has to be willing to say, okay, this stuff is aging out. We need to get some capital together and go through this process with a group like ours to get into the cloud. And that's not that takes some stones, I think, for the investors and the CFO to say, okay, yeah, this is the right thing to do. And so we love to walk people through that process, but I would say that's the barrier is, if all you care about is making money rather than reinvesting it back into the tech, then that'll be the barrier. And it does take a little while. It's not something that happens overnight. And it needs to be done because most of these companies have thriving customer bases. But where we see the real rub is that those customers want new features, and it's difficult to add those new features to the old stuff. And
Right.
the folks that know how to work in those old systems are also wanting to retire. They're like looking at their watch going like, okay, it's about time for me to go. And there's nobody being trained how to work on COBOL in college.
Yeah.
So, there's not much new blood in that pool of talent. And so there is some pressure to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I work on smaller scales than you probably do, but we are always helping people. Not always, but we have regularly we have projects where we're moving somebody off some old system, content management system, or website architecture to either WordPress or something newish, or other frameworks, React or whatever. And I think one of the biggest things I see is it's the change, because there's always a change to processes and what they're doing on their end, an improvement, but maybe a change to that, but also moving all that data is always fun, and mapping it to this new, that's probably in my eyes has been the most challenging thing, creating APIs and whatever you got to do to get that data from this old architecture to the new architecture. I'd imagine that's.
Yep. Yeah. We're generally trying to synchronize so that the old stuff can continue to work seamlessly as we're, I think Chad Fowler probably deserves credit. I don't know if he's the original author of this, but I learned it from him. He wrote about a strangulation pattern, and that pattern is where the new and the old coexist for quite some time. While the new services are coming online, the old thing is diminishing in use. And a lot of times that needs to be transparent to the user. Like the user has no idea. The user may figure it out. You may have to tell the user somewhere along the way that like, hey, you need to go move to this new thing because now it has enough features. But it's an evolutionary process that takes place over time. A few businesses are able to do a greenfield. They're able to brand a new product and then bring the new product online and migrate customers from old to new. That's great when you're able to do that, but many businesses need a synchronization layer or a shim of some sort in between old and new to make it happen.
Yeah, because it's any kind of software. Like we obviously work with plugins and things like that. And when you see those major versions come out, is it backwards compatible? Is it going to be, it has to continue to work for the people that are using the software. Even though you want to upgrade and you want to move forward, as you can take advantage of new technologies or new ways of doing things, you have to make sure your customers are along for the ride and don't get tripped up in the process. Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the things we were going to talk about when we were discussing what to talk about today was really leveraging technology to scale and grow a business. What are your thoughts around that? I mean, this is obviously maybe one of those ways, people moving in this direction and improving what they have. What do you have to say in that regard?
Yeah, so I think of it like the periodic table of elements, right? So a lot of business owners and even in tech, there's this kind of tool discussion that happens. I use this, you use that. So we walk our customers through, especially our small business customers. We have this kind of content that's like a periodic table of elements, right? And in those lines are different categories, just like you have solids and gases. I know I'm kind of pulling up the chemistry class for everybody here. Solids, gases, metals, and the way that we see the world is that there are a couple of categories of tooling that everyone needs, and if you select best of breed, and sometimes you already have certain things implemented. So, accounting software. Most people are already heavily into QuickBooks Online, or some derivative, and in our diagram we also mentioned Zero Accounting and some of the others. Folks are going to use a payroll system. Maybe they're using Gusto or many of the other ones. I love Gusto. That's what we use. Okay. And then we start to introduce other things like, how do you message? How do you communicate? Do you use Office 365 or Gmail? And then what about how you chat in real time? Slack is a big favorite of ours, but we know each company, some choose Teams. And so we just kind of look at that map and we see affinities. Sometimes there's an affinity to kind of knock it all out with Microsoft. And then when you get into the marketing and sales side, there's some choices there, Salesforce versus HubSpot. And we try to see what the customer is trying to accomplish, think of a vision for the future, and arrange a stack in the middle. And the framework, we call this is high need versus high value. We understand that there are a lot of high need things that all businesses are going to have. And when you have something that's high need and it exists in the market, you need to do a really good job of partnering. You need to select the best of breed partner in those areas, because now you've covered all your needs. Where we see a lot of folks slip up is where it's at that highest value layer. My experience has been that if you take something off the shelf and you put it in front of the customer, things tend to not go well. So I'm not a big fan of the Salesforce tools, for example, that actually interact with endpoint customers. And I'm not a fan of trying to take stuff that's off the shelf and shove it right in front of the customer. If you do that, you will end up wanting to customize a lot. And then you're getting really into those third-party tools and trying to customize them. And generally, then you run into limitations. And that can be a great way to do like your first version or prove a concept. But at some point, especially the businesses we're talking to, we want to start thinking about custom software that's actually going to sit between your systems and your customer. And we think that the best investment for custom software is in that high value layer where you're really in your market as a brand trying to make a difference. So we build a lot of portals for folks, a lot of mobile apps, things that are right there at that intersection between customer and brand. And that's just how we think of the world and what we kind of walk people through. So it's not build everything, but we do have an opinion towards building the things that are going to be right at the tip of the spear there.
Interesting. As I, as an agency, spend a lot of money on software and solutions, and some of the things you mentioned, Slack, and we use ClickUp, we use Google Workspace, we use we have all these different services we're using. So what I'm hearing is you take that, you look at that, or you may recommend some other services or something, but then you're building something in between. Because the challenge, like for me, is unifying all of that and trying to get that, figure out where the customer comes in and what they interface with, and
right.
And you don't want to confuse them with multiple things, and So that sounds like that's the problem you're solving here. Is you're helping bring all that together and have some kind of way to tie it up in a nice bow.
Yeah, and mainly acknowledging that this is normal, right? If we're going to build a house, we need some wood and some gas and some metal. We need all the elements to build a thing. And we don't want to spend time on things that don't make a difference to our customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen just a lot of value in, if you're a multi-million-dollar HVAC company and you're doing a lot of your different distribution or a lot of your deployments and field work through text, and then you change out your person who's running that, and then all those text messages are lost in their phone, right? That's why we should be using Slack instead of running it all through text, right? And so certain things like that kind of click as you show the landscape of different tools and what they are. And you also want to say, okay, well, if we're going to choose a particular tool for a particular area, then that checks off these other things. Like, we don't need them. And so as people solicit us, so really nailing that IT landscape is a critical function for most businesses. Just knowing why you have what you have. And the switching costs can be quite expensive if you think that, if I switch from this to this, if I go from HubSpot to Salesforce, all my hopes and dreams are going to be solved. So we like to give the entrepreneur some power over the vendors who are soliciting them and give them that map, and then say, okay, how can these things be best integrated into a customer solution? How does the customer journey through the service or the product that you provide? Where do these things touch? And then working into, okay, what is the custom glue that's going to bring all of this together?
Nice. Sounds like something I need. That switching cost.
Yeah, let's do it.
That switching cost is a real thing. I think one of the things that, every business, I guess every business has people that are some are more savvy with tech and not, and making those decisions. Sometimes we have to, even us, just as an agency, it might be random that, they just need some advice on something to use for their, we get into things that we normally don't do that's outside of our wheelhouse just to help the client. But like one of the big things for us this past year was we were using Trello for a long time. I had, for whatever reason, there was reasons, because we use Bitbucket, we use, possibly use Jira, we use, and I wanted to kind of unify everything, use Confluence to just put everything, all our documentation, everything, Trello, project management, all that under one umbrella. That was my idea. Like, I thought this is great. And we already used Bitbucket and whatever. And, but then there was only one of those services that started to really break down as our agency grew, and that was Trello. Trello did not scale well with our needs as an agency.
Sure.
And a big part of that was insights and being able to see, like, high level, like, across dozens of boards, and their architecture is horrible. And I fought it. I tried to find, as the guy trying to figure this out, I tried to find all kinds of hacks to try to make it work, because I needed that insight. And I have multiple teams. I have dozens of clients and partners, and just wasn't working. Yeah. And so I had to make that executive decision early last year we need something new. And I started hunting around. I found ClickUp, but that cost of moving from that system to the new system, they made it pretty easy. I was able to import a lot of stuff, but at the same time, retrain everybody, get everything back and learn this whole new thing. But man, was it worth it? But it was worth it, but it was a cost to that. So even when you think you made the right decision in the past, you might outgrow that. Yeah,
they're stage appropriate. Yeah, we find that a lot of businesses, and you being a service-based business, this is especially true. You go through this build stage and you make certain decisions just to build and get to a place where you have the volume for those problems to even appear.
Yeah.
And then you get to kind of a scale stage and you make some different pivotal choices between build and scale. In the build stage, you also are doing a lot of the work yourself. Mm-hmm. And then in scale, you're realizing this isn't, if I'm doing all the work, then how am I going to hit my goals? So we love to talk through that with people and, help them just figure out the next step. So the advisory service that we have is all about that. How do we systematize our business And we're really not trying to give so much advice as we're just sharing our
Mm-hmm.
experience across all the businesses that we've been working with and seeing how they're approaching these and what's working, and we just have a lot of scar tissue from going through building businesses that like what works and what doesn't is starting to show up. And
Right.
I use Trello for one thing. I have Trello on my pin tab for one thing, but it's a very it's a very small thing. It's my social calendar is in Trello. My social media calendar is in Trello right now. And so it can be fine for these
Right.
little things, but as you really start to think of the system that runs your business, you evaluate different solutions, and we help with that by doing this kind of sectional map of the different parts of the business.
Yeah, and you hit on something. Again, just relaying or relating my experience. Over the decades I've been online and the years I've been doing web development, all that. You learn not only from your own pains and experiences, but from the people you're helping, and that you kind of build this kind of experience vault of it's very easy for you to look at something and be like, don't do that. just trust me. Don't do that.
Yeah. You see like the results of WordPress multi-site with 300 sites in there and how that's progressed. And like, okay, next time you want to build 300 websites, maybe we don't do it this way.
Yeah. That's a hard lesson to learn.
For sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's kind of land on this. Like, let's say there's somebody listening to this and they want to grow their business. They're kind of at a stage where it's like, I feel like, because a lot of business owners and CEOs or whoever's out there, they maybe don't have the tech experience, but maybe tech is the answer to them scaling and getting better and improving the things we're talking about here. Where do they start? First of all, is there if they don't have the budget to start, investing or getting help, is there advice there? And then how do they get help? How would they approach you, and where does that? I know you kind of talked about first we're going to analyze everything and see where they're at with services, and then have a roadmap for them. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, obviously I'm available on LinkedIn. I have a book appointment link that's published on LinkedIn, so you can book an appointment with me. I have really made a commitment this year to talk to as many CEOs as I can about wherever they're at with their digital transformation and what they want to do with their business and how it's progressing. I love talking about goals and OKRs and KPIs and all the things that they're trying to move about their business, and how they're trying to leverage technology to help them. So love that, and that's readily available to anyone. The other thing I would say, though, that I've gotten a lot of value of out with my business and helping other folks is mastermind groups are fantastic. So the one I would recommend if you're a service-based business is Collective 54. So Collective 54 is a great community for CEOs that run service-based businesses. They have kind of an area if you're still in build mode, you're trying to get out of the business, you want to try to work on the business versus in the business. And then they have a scale stage. And so I would love to refer people into Collective 54, just because while I may be able to answer some of your questions, there's a whole group there. So I really think looking for a mastermind group that best suits you. There are other mastermind groups, maybe even specifically for but if you're a service-based business, that's an excellent one. And then also, the CEO coaching market is like really diverse. There's tons of CEO coaches. I certainly know there's, just like in any industry, there's probably people who are good and not so good at that. But being open to finding a coach, I think, is another great thing. And our CTO advisory is geared a little bit like a CEO coaching, but really tilted towards the technology and IT side. But yeah, be open to asking for help and finding a coach. So just to answer your question, that would be my advice. Find a mastermind, find a coach, contact me. I also will plug Donald Miller's work. Donald Miller is all of his books, Business Made Simple, just digesting he breaks stuff down into such a wonderfully simple framework of thought, that I find his books just really like getting back to the basics of business building. And so if you haven't checked out Donald Miller's work, that is a fantastic place to start.
I think you just kind of like encapsulated everything that getting help. The mastermind group is great. I just actually had a conversation, it'll be weeks before it comes out, but with a guy that actually runs a mastermind group. And it's something that I don't belong with. I'm actually thinking, where's my mastermind? I need to get out. I need to go out there and find my mastermind group. But coaching too, it's something that I think it's something, I don't know. It's hard to think, okay, I'm going to spend the time or invest in somebody else. Why? I know everything. I know everything I need to know.
Yeah.
But you don't. There's somebody that's specializing in a certain area. If you want to, there's so many different coaches out there. It's hard to even, I think that's my problem sometimes. Like, there's like 90 different types of coaches out there. Which one is going to be the best that's going to get me where I want to go?
I'll make another plug. So I'm part of a men's based, they have events for women's too, but it's called Rise Up Kings. It's faith based. So I'm in two masterminds group. One that's for Christian business owners called Rise Up Kings. My wife's also gone to some of their events. We've been really happy with working with them. And then Collective 54. So those are the two that I have gotten the most help. Something really cool happens as you get involved in those is you start finding your purpose in helping others. So you start going to them like to get help. And then you realize that, there's people in those groups that need my help. And it just helps with feeling a little more purposeful in what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's encouraging and you're inspiring because here you are. You obviously have had incredible success in your life, and you know what you're doing, but you still know the value of being part of a group like that, a mastermind, and you're probably out there helping other people. You're probably that guy.
Yeah, and problems are the constant, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got problems. So being able to have somebody to say, "Hey, these are my problems." We may be at different stages or whatever. Yeah. Getting access to people who are at that next stage is great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everything you have shared today. So it sounds like if somebody wants to reach out to you, that's awesome. So you're making yourself available out there on the World Wide Web. At LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn too. So I'll probably see you around that community. And then your website is particle41.com.
Particle41.com.
All right.
Yeah. We're about to launch a brand new one here in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
I'm excited about.
Nice.
But particle41.com. And that also is like my main call to action is book appointment. I love talking to folks about what they got themselves into. So
yeah, that's a great action. I actually have that action on my site too. It's like, let's go right to let's go to the conversation.
Let's get on the phone. Yeah. Let's talk it out.
Exactly. Yep. Love it. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben. Until next time, take care of yourself.
All right. Thank you.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.